Friday, February 7th, Opera Lafayette is live streaming free of charge a world premiere performance of Morgiane, the long-lost opera of African-American composer Edmond Dédé. Like and repost this video to spread the good word. This was his first song, which was called Mon pauvre cœur, My Poor Heart, which was published in 1852. I'm going to tell you about him, but first I want to tell you about this terrific opera, which is absolutely an event. This opera is it's a story of vengeance, truth, and reconciliation, and love and loss and recovery. It starts out when a young couple's wedding day is disrupted, and the bride is kidnapped by the agents of a sultan, the Sultan of Ispahan. And she's forced into an engagement with this sultan. The story comes straight out of Ali Baba and the 40 Thieves. It's an adventure story. But, then the bride's family, led by the mother, by the way, strikes out to seek revenge. And we're told there's a shocking revelation that comes to light, leading to a path of forgiveness. But I can't tell you what that is, or I'll ruin the ending for you. Okay, let me show you a picture of the performers in this opera. They have a very nice equip of experienced African-American singers, opera singers, who are absolutely dedicated to this performance. I can tell you that. So we start out with Morgiane, who is played by Mary Elizabeth Williams, a soprano. She sung with the Opéra National de Paris, with the Santa Fe Opera, with the Seattle Opera. She started out as a spinto soprano with a repertoire like Tosca, Aida, Leonora in Il Trovatore. But more recently, she's added coloratura roles like Abigail in Nabucco, Lady Macbeth, and Norma. And recently, she played Isolde in Tristan und Isolde at the Seattle Opera and in Peter Sellers's production of the same piece at the Opéra National de Paris. So she's a voice you may want to hear in a leading role here. Next up is the guy playing the Sultan Kuru Shah, played by Kenneth Kellogg, bass. And Kenneth has been with the Chicago Lyric Opera, the San Francisco Opera, the Washington National Opera, done a lot of work out on the West Coast. He's involved in doing a lot of things these days. His title roles that he sings are Don Giovanni, Mephistopheles in Gounod's Faust, Don Alfonso in Così fan tutte, the title role in Handel's Hercules. You're kind of hearing a tendency toward period music there, and this is kind of a period piece. Tazewell Thompson composed the opera Blue for Kenneth Kellogg to perform, which he did, and it was named the best new opera of 2020 by the Music Critics Association of North America. So third up, playing Hagi Hassan is Joshua Conyers, baritone. He's sung with the New York Met, with the English National Opera, with the New York Phil, in concerts. He's currently on the voice faculty of the Eastman School of Music. So the conductor is Patrick Dupré Quigley. The score for this opera is 500 pages, handwritten. These 500 pages had specific notations for each instrument in the orchestra, and the libretto was separate. So Quigley spent several years during the COVID period of time when everybody was stuck indoors, working with people from the New Orleans group Opera Creole, putting it back together, putting note by note, word by word, the entire libretto and the score together so it could actually be performed. The thing you want to know is that the Opera Lafayette, they are specialists in period music of different kinds, and they work together with Opera Creole, which is based in New Orleans, which specializes in recovering lost manuscripts from the heyday of New Orleans music scene back in the 19th century. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. Edmond Dédé was born in New Orleans, born 1827, about the same time as Brahms, I think. and lived until 1901, but the end was not so glorious. Anyway, he is born into a fourth generation family, people of color in New Orleans. They were originally, though, they had come from Haiti, but they were originally from the French Antilles, les Antilles, as the French call it. So it's not a surprise he ended up later on back in France. Even as a young man, when he was first learning to play the violin, he was considered a prodigy. There were at least 4 opera houses in New Orleans in the 1830s and 40s and 50s, doing over 200 productions a year. Italian composers like Bellini and Rossini staged their American premieres at theaters in the city's French Quarter. But as time moved into the 1840s and 50s, the division in the U.S. and the increasing segregation in the South made life less and less comfortable. And finally, in 1855 or 56, he had saved up enough money and he went to Paris. And he couldn't get into the Paris Conservatory because he was too old. He was already 29 years old. And they only took people until they were 22. They did let him audit classes, though, and he studied both the violin and composition and conducting while he was at it, studying with Fromental à Lévis and Jean Delphin Allard. Then, after a few years of that, in 1860, he went down to Bourges, where he was the chief conductor at a theater, and from there he went to Bordeaux, which was a bigger town, and became the rehearsal pianist and an assistant conductor for the ballet orchestra at the Grand Theater, Le Grand Théâtre. And I can show you a picture of the Grand Théâtre. There's a picture. It is a grand structure. I mean, it was a big deal. Then he also got by 1865, he had made enough connections and impressed people enough that he got himself appointed as the director of and chief conductor of a theater, the Alcazar Theater, which I show you a picture of right there. And he stayed there for a couple of decades at least. Anyway, during these 30 years or so that he was active, he produced 150 dances, 95 songs, 6 string quartets, 6 operas, 6 operettas, comic opera, symphonies, 2 choral works, and ballet music for Né Naha, Reine des Fées, Né Naha, the Queen of the Fairies, and La Sensitive, the sensitive one. And I've got another piece I can play for you now. Here's another one. This is a lovely piece. As France moved into the 1880s, operetta became less popular and gave way to vaudeville. And what Edmond Dédé did was not really vaudeville, and it didn't work out for him. Now, in 1887, he completes the score for Morgiane, but he couldn't find a theater that would do it in Bordeaux. Now, he had gotten married back in 1864, and his son by now was grown up, working as a conductor and a composer in Paris. So Edmond Dédé moved up to Paris to live with his son. Around 1890, he went to New Orleans and gave several concerts there, maybe trying to get Morgiane put on there. It didn't work out. Moved back to France to live with his son, and lived in obscurity in the last decade of his life, and died in 1901, and was buried in a communal grave, and there's no marker. So a sad ending. This is a composer that I think you want to know. I really encourage you, and I never do this with people, I encourage you, repost this live stream. If you repost it, more and more people will know about it, and as many people as possible deserve to know about this one. Ciao for now, and thanks for tuning in.